On today's episode, we are going to be flipping 5 different thrift flips. Some of these came from estate sales, some from the Goodwill stores, some from the Goodwill bins. I'm going to be focusing on making all of these items look like they are super high end, as if I paid a fortune to buy them, but in reality, we DIY'd them for a super low budget. I'm excited to show you how this is done today. Let's go! The first item that we are working on today is this little side table. It has the look of an antique, like an Eastlake piece from the late 1800s, early 1900s, but this is actually a remake. I would guess that it was probably done in the 1960s. I can tell by the type of wood that it was done with. It was done with cheaper woods, newer woods, and it also has Phillips head screws building it and putting it together. It was really dirty, so we gave it a really good cleaning. These brushes that my husband's using are just incredible. I use them all the time for most of my projects to get all the dust and gross stuff as well as spider webs off, and I have these linked in my Amazon store in the description box below. Next, we're going to put some wood filler in. That wood filler did not want to come out, so my husband had to do the squeezing on this one because my hands weren't strong enough. But we're just going to fill in a crack that it had here. We actually had tried to grip it and pinch that back together, but it was not budging whatsoever, even with straps, even with using clamps. Nothing was making that piece go back in where that little gap is. So we decided to fill the gap in instead. And another thing that we had to do was put a felt pad on one of the feet in order to help fix a tiny bit of a wobble that the table has. But my husband is just smoothing out the wood filler that he used on here, and then we flip it over and I am sanding off all the finish on the very top. I'm not going to do the sanding on the rounded edge part because I want this to be a DIY that anybody could do with minimal tools and minimal experience. Plus, I think that it would actually look better if I had that rim painted the same color as the base. I think the whole piece will look more cohesive that way. When I'm sanding this finish off, I started out with a 60 grit to get most of the finish off. Then I go in with a 150 to get the rest of the little bits out that is stuck in the wood grain. And after that, I finish up with a nice smooth 220 grit. If you are going to be painting wood that you're sanding, only go to about 180 for your grit because 220 grit is a little bit too slick for your paint to stick to. But if you are staining it, you want it to feel more smooth to the touch, so going to 220 is definitely the way to go. If you look closely, you can see a water ring appearing here in the bottom left of the tabletop. I didn't see that originally, and I had wanted to go with a very light whitewash on here, but that ring is going to definitely be easily seen that way. So I'm going to do a darker look on it than I had originally planned. I'm using this Fusion Woodwick color, and I'm going to do a brown or taupe wash on here instead of a stain. I'm super allergic to anything oil-based, so I'm going to use this paint as a stain, and it's not going to have any kind of smell to it. I will link down below in the description box where I get my Fusion paint from, and if you want to check it out, you can. I find that when you're doing a paint wash, you really don't need to make that much of it. A little goes a really long way. So I would do the least amount as possible, and I do about a 50-50 ratio. So I'm doing 50% of the water and 50% of the paint. And what I do is I slowly build up layers on my wood so that way I'm not doing it too dark all at once, and it makes it to where I can control the level of stain. All I'm doing now is letting it dry in between coats and then doing another coat and another coat until finally I can't see that water ring on the top anymore. Finally, I got to the last coat to where you can't tell that it has that water ring stain on the top, and I'm going to take my sandpaper and go back and sand this top smooth again. Anytime you use water-based products, the wood will rise back up again, the wood grain, and it creates a really pokey finish up there, so you have to sand that back down. The wood absorbs the water and makes it rise up. It's very scientific. But now I'm going to sand that area where I had that wood grain and then go over it with that woodwick paint. I'm only going to do one sparse coat of paint using that Fusion Woodwick color on the whole rest of it. I want it to look like a paint wash on the whole thing. It won't be exactly the same as the top, but I just want it to have a really weathered wood look to it. I think that this taupe color really makes pieces look more high end. It gives it more of a curated look, and it makes it look a little more like it is going with what is in style right now with that cottage decor or with French country decor. This is kind of a bit of like a French greige, as you guys would say, the gray and beige mixed together. It's a gorgeous color, and it definitely modernizes this piece in a way that is still classic to its like antique style. It is not an antique, so it doesn't need to be treated like one, but it is in that style, so you don't want to do something that's not going to match the style of the piece. I noticed that we needed to make a small repair, so I got my Starbond super glue out and super glued down this piece. I'll have this glue linked in my description box as well. It's the only super glue that I use and love very much. I've been using it for probably 4 years now, I think, and I absolutely love their glue, so I think you'll like it too. But anyway, once that is nice and dry, it is time to keep painting and finish up this area. I'm not trying to get a perfect paint finish. Remember, I'm going for this like weathered look on the wood to where you can still see the wood coming through this grayish color, and it looks so good. I could totally picture this table or something similar to it being sold in a store newer, but it would not be made out of real wood like this one is, so it's a steal of a deal. I think I paid like $6 for this table at an estate sale online, and I didn't even realize that it wasn't an actual antique table until I went to pick it up, and I thought, oh great, I didn't really want this, but then I thought, well great, that means I can paint it without feeling guilty. I know there's a lot of people who probably are still upset that I painted this anyways, but since it's not antique, I feel way less weight on my shoulders about having painted it. On the edge, I'm going to use the same brush and just go real slow around the edge to get that edge finished nicely. I don't like taping. I'm not going to tape if I don't have to. I was actually pretty surprised at how good of a job I did with a chip brush going along the edge, but I didn't want to get an angled brush dirty right now when I already had a perfectly good one with the paint on it ready to be used. But I'm going to go all the way around the edge and give it the same type of coverage that I've given to the whole rest of the piece. And this is what I meant about wanting the edge to be painted the same as the body, because I feel like it makes it look a little more cohesive. Had it been all stained on the top, it would have made the top look more disconnected from the base. Now it looks a little more connected. I'm going to go over it with some wax from Fusion. Again, I'll have this linked in my description box. I got it from the same place that I get my Fusion paint from. But so far, I'm really enjoying this wax. I think that I was kind of scared to use wax because some of them are not super durable. And this one seems to cure pretty quickly, which is nice because it gives me the ability to use the items I made pretty quickly or to put them in my booth sooner and not have to wait so many days for it to cure. It turned out absolutely gorgeous. This is something I could actually picture shopping for at Kirkland's, and I'm sure they would have a massive price tag on it for almost $200 or so, maybe $249. You never know how high their prices are going to go. But I did this at home for dirt cheap, and this one is an easy one for you to try at home. The next one I'm going to be putting together with this table and making a vignette as we go. So each project I do, I'm going to add together into one big vignette at the end. These two plates are pewter, and they have a little bit of a maker's stamp on them, although I can't quite make it out, and it is made in Pennsylvania. I believe that I spent $2.99 for both of these in a pack at Goodwill, and then I got these silver candlesticks as well at Goodwill, and I think I paid $1.99 each for these. It could have been $2.99, but I think it was $1.99. So very affordable. I'm going to combine them because I like to put larger tops on my candlesticks to create kind of like the big risers or cake stand sort of look. I think it makes pieces look a little more high end, a little more expensive. It also elevates your decorations to different levels, so it's more interesting to the eye as well. And in home decorating and in decorating in a resale booth, lifting the eye at different levels to show off different things really makes the place look a lot better. If you were wondering, the glue that I'm using is E6000. This is the glue that I use if I want something to be permanently attached together. It's really strong stuff. Now it's time to actually decorate with these pieces. They look stunning together with this table. It definitely gives very high-end, expensive vibes, and I'm going to add these little miniature wreaths on here as well as some bunnies. It is springtime coming up right now. Easter is this month, so I thought adding some cute little cottage-style bunnies on here would be really cute and show you just a different way that you can decorate with candlesticks by adding extra decor on top of them and using them in a way you may not have thought before. And something that has really been inspiring me lately is Williams Sonoma and Ballard Designs. Their decor is absolutely gorgeous. It's way beyond what I want to spend, but it really helps me to hone in a particular style that I want to create for this high-end look using thrifted finds. The next thrift flip is going to be a bargain bird cage that I got from Hobby Lobby on 50% off sale. And then this candlestick I actually got from the Goodwill bins, which was also originally from Hobby Lobby for $12.99. The bird cage I spent about $7.50 for. And together they look so much like something that you would buy from Kirkland's. I adore Kirkland's decor. If I could, say I had an unlimited budget and could go shop anywhere to decorate my house, I would buy all my stuff pretty much from Kirkland's. I think I know that some of their stuff is like not real wood, so not an amazing quality, but they sure do know how to make their stuff look really beautiful. Although, I mean, Ballard Designs is like my favorite. I've never actually bought anything from Ballard Designs before. Kirkland's is a little bit more affordable than them, but I did get a Ballard Designs file cabinet from an estate sale once. So I do have one thing in my home from Ballard Designs. But this little bird cage I glued on with E6000. It stuck really well. I even put a little bit extra glue. You saw me do it there. And it was permanently attached on there. I don't like how you can see the black of the top of that candlestick. So I'm going to take this Spanish moss. I got this Spanish moss from the Goodwill bins, brand new, unopened. Amazing. And I'm going to pull some of it out and use some scissors to cut smaller pieces and set this in here to look like a bird nest for this bird cage. I like that this Spanish moss is a little more taupe and gray because, again, we're trying to create a cohesive vignette look here with all the pieces I'm using today. I like to do my flips all within a color scheme, and that helps you to imagine how you can take a bunch of random things and put them together to look like they were made to be together. And it won't look so much mix-matched or just a little bit messy to the eye if you have a bunch of different similar colors that aren't the exact same color. Sometimes you can have too many different wood tones together and it looks funky. If you use the same color paint doing a bunch of projects all together, you're going to be blown away by how good it looks at the end. And then I'm adding in some white speckled eggs in here. I'm putting 4 eggs because I have 4 kiddos, and this is a project that I'm most likely going to be keeping for my own self. I just adore it too much. I love that whitewash finish. It's my favorite thing in the world. I don't know why. And when people say farmhouse is dead, that is so not true. Farmhouse decor is alive and kicking, and it is just evolving into different amazing new looks. And here it is staged together. it's all coming together now. But let's do number 4 and 5. I have 2 frames here that I think you're going to adore. I can't remember if I got these at the Goodwill bins or at an estate sale auction from a long time ago, but they've been in my garage for months. And girl, I need to get this stuff done. I have so much stuff in my garage just sitting, waiting to be done. But I can't help it to just keep going out and shopping for cool stuff because I feel like I'm just missing out if I don't go to the Goodwill bins. Like, what did I not get today that was amazing at the Goodwill bins that somebody else got? Or maybe it got thrown out now that I wasn't the one who bought it. Why do I have these fears and why do I think like this? What is wrong with me? I have so much work to do in my garage. But for this project, I'm using that same watered down paint finish that I did for my faux wood stain or my paint wash that I did on the top of that side table, and it turned out beautiful. I've never done it in this color before over gold, but holy moly, you need to try this right now. If you don't have the same color, just find your own like brown taupe color to try it out with at home and do it over your most gaudy, yellowy gold that you can possibly think of that you have, and it will turn out beautiful and high-end looking, like way beyond your wildest dreams. And this second frame I'm actually going to leave empty because guess what's trending right now? Stacking frames. I don't know what that's about, but it looks really cool and I want to try it. But this one, it definitely deserves to have a beautiful print inside it. And if you've been watching my channel lately, you know that I've recently picked up tons of amazing books that have like botanical prints and animal prints in them. And I want to try out one of the ones from the animal print book. It was actually kind of hard to find one for this size frame in here because most of the images in here were smaller than the size of this opening on the frame. So that I need to keep that in mind in the future when I'm doing my smaller frames, that these animal ones are like, they have a ton of small ones, not really a lot of big ones. But I'm picking out a few that I think are cool and trying to decide which one I think is best. Let me know which one you would have picked because there were about 4 that I was really struggling to choose from. This one was my favorite, but this was my second favorite one right here. I thought that this looked really pretty, but I thought that it was just a little bit too black and white compared to the more sepia or gold tone that the frame was. But I eventually just went with this bird one. I was a little bit weirded out by it at first when I looked up close in the image because there is a snake in the nest with the birds. And that kind of creeped me out a little bit. I don't know. I didn't really know how I felt about it, but it just looked so beautiful inside the frame. And I thought, okay, well, that's nature. And especially here in Houston, Texas, like there are snakes everywhere and there are tons of birds everywhere. So I'm sure this is a really realistic, natural scenario that's happening. But this image was still just a tiny bit too small for the opening. So I'm going to show you a trick that you can do to get rid of that gap, I guess you could call it, and make it look like it is the perfect size for your frame opening if your image is just a little bit too small. Not anything crazy too small, like you don't want to have like several inches too small, but just a tiny bit too small, you can do this. I'm going to put the ugly side of the cardboard backing behind my image so that it won't be seen even when you look on the back side of my frame. If somebody were to go to purchase it, I want it to look pretty, so I put the prettiest side out, if that makes sense. And then I used a glue stick and just rubbed this thing down nice and flat, made sure there was no wrinkles, and cut off any excess that I had. Now the next part is kind of an experiment that I tried out that ended up working out perfectly. So now I get to share it with you guys. I am going to take my same chip brush and that same paint color and dab on a shadow in that same oval shape around the image. And then I'm going to also dab just a little bit into the image. But you have to make sure that it goes in a gradient from darkest to lightest as you're going towards the center of your picture. Once that is all finished, I'm just going to attach it into the frame using some hot glue. Time to add this beauty to our awesome vignette that we are creating. You can see how all the colors are coming together now, and this is what I meant about stacking frames. So I have been seeing this trending with people who like cottage decor and antiques. They have been stacking empty frames and filled in frames together like this in this way, and it looks really cool. It gives it a really collected look, and I think it just looks neat. But here's a close look at the image itself now with that like shading that I did on there. It looks so good, you guys. I think this is one of my favorite things I've ever made. Do you love it as much as I love it, or is this one of those weird things where I really love it and nobody else does? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, just let me know what you thought of today's video in general. I'm really excited about this new journey I've been taking with uploading 2 videos a week and just meeting tons of new viewers here on YouTube and getting to talk to lots of new people with their amazing ideas that they have. And I love that my comment section has become a place where people can share ideas for doing their own DIYs at home and talk with each other about it and give tips to each other. Like, I have the best audience ever, I swear. You are all so wonderful, and I am so grateful that you are here. So if you liked what you saw today, don't forget to hit subscribe down below. We post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and I will see you next time. Bye!